Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I'm based out of London. So today I'm going to join you online. I've been CEO at Tesco, running Tesco Business Solutions for the last 7 years. I have another job where I sit on the board of our joint venture with the Tata Group in India, which is the Star Hypermarket. So I have an ask to all of you. If you like my talk, then I insist that you shop at Star. If you don't like, then you can shop anywhere else. But let me kick off by talking about Tesco. I don't know how much you know about Tesco. Tesco is one of the largest retailers and the biggest retailer in Europe. We are across 5 countries. We have around 5,000 stores, and we are the largest online food grocer in Europe. Our revenue is around 62 billion a year, and our online revenue is around 7 billion. We have a Tesco Bank, we have a Tesco Wholesale, which is Booker, and we have Tesco Mobile, which is the fourth largest mobile operator in the UK. And overall, Tesco provides 30% of the food in UK, which is our kind of the main country where we operate out of. And we have around 90 million shopping trips a week into Tesco Group. If you move on to the next slide, let me talk about what Tesco Business Solutions does. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We are about 4,500 colleagues. We are a single organization across Tesco Group, supporting Tesco Group and subsidiaries. We own the whole Tesco-wide capability of continuous improvement. We help business take decisions through our data science and analytics capability. And we generate millions and millions of pounds of margin upside every year. I can't talk about it because we're in a closed period, so I can't talk about the exact number, but it's a triple-digit million number. And we won the world's best GBS in 2023, and we were runners-up last year. We've won a number of awards. I'm not going to spend too much time, but one sentence that you should remember what we do is we create sustainable competitive advantage for the group. So if we move on, I will talk a little bit about where are we in India. We are across 3 locations. We have an entity called Dunnhumby, which is a data science and analytics provided to other retailers, including Walmart. We have the Trent Hypermarket, which is a joint venture with Tata Group. At the moment, we have around 85 stores. The plan is to expand and grow across India over the next couple of years. I sit on the board of that. And then Tesco in Bangalore, which is there since 2004, around 4,500 colleagues, supporting our engineering and our Tesco Business Solutions business. So Tesco Business Solutions is not just India. We see this as a horizontal organization. So we are across Budapest, across India, across Ireland, and also in our headquarters in Welwyn Garden City. If we move on to the next slide, if I zoom in on Bangalore, we have almost 2,000 technology colleagues. 90% of them are engineering and innovation. We have around 1,000 colleagues from various partnerships like Wipro, Infosys that we work with. And then Tesco Business Solutions, about 2,500 colleagues, mostly in data science, finance, payroll. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we also have Tesco Sourcing, which looks at sourcing of Tesco products across the Asian region, China, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. So if we move on to the next slide, hopefully this will give you a little bit of context in terms of volume and the functions that we serve out of Tesco Business Solutions. Now, finance, 85% of entire global finance of Tesco is done out of Tesco Business Solutions. Majority of that is from Bangalore, and then we have a center in Budapest. This includes tax, treasury, FP&A, business partnering, procure to pay, P2P, R2R, C2C, you name it, the entire gamut of finance solutions. People services, 5.2 billion pound of Tesco's payroll, pension, tax, bonuses, exec bonuses, paying PLC director salaries, all managed from Tesco Business Solutions. Product, from setting up a supplier to doing the supplier due diligence to managing 100% of 1.2 million promotions a year, to managing 44 billion of commercial income, to contract and commercial management of all Tesco's supplier, to payment of 10,000 suppliers that we have. That's all managed through Tesco Business Solutions. Then we have our engagement centers where we manage almost 16 million customer, supplier, and colleague contacts through Dundee, our center in Ireland, and also in India. Property, you need to think about 100% of all property design, the architectural design of those stores, including space range and display, is done from Tesco Business Solutions. We also manage entire assets of all Tesco stores from here in Bangalore. And there are no other architects anywhere in Tesco other than in Bangalore. We also support asset management, property valuation, finding where is the right property, doing the analytics around finding where the best property is, best location for setting up a new store, and also maintenance of all stores is done through our property solutions team. And then we have a legal team which supports legal matters across all our regions. Underneath that, we have almost 2,000 technology and engineering colleagues in Bangalore and another 500 in Budapest, and our center in Krakow, which is looking at innovating and deploying technology. Like, I'll give you some examples. Most of 100% of all our tills are actually cloud-based, and that's all innovative, designed, and delivered and deployed by our team in Bangalore. A number of other technology innovations, especially in retail technology innovation, whereas building our retail platform to a simple software called Bumblebee, which looks at our software picking that we do, which we are now kind of selling it to other companies, is all delivered out of our centers in Bangalore. And then we have a data science and analytics unit, which converts data into decisions and help businesses. I'll give you an example in a minute in some of the decisions that we help business to deliver. And what's really important, it's no longer about the depth of knowledge you have on a particular function, but understanding of the business context. So 15% of our colleagues are over 10 years, and almost 26% of our colleagues are over 5 years, which means that they've built a depth of knowledge in retail, which TBS, Tesco Business Solution, has. And this knowledge helps us to cross-fertilize across different functions and really solve for very complex business problems. We've also built a number of IP and assets that is patented and that we use to deliver decisions, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you move on to the next slide. This is, as I said to you, gave us the world's best GBS award. Two principles. Why is this a big shift? If you move on, and what help us win this? What is our recipe of success? I think first and foremost, very eloquently, the previous case we talked about, how do we create talent out of India? How do we create leadership? I think it's the mindset. Two things we need to change from a mindset perspective, and I always talk about. One is, it's no longer about headcount. We always talk about, oh, my center has 10,000 people skill count. What capability and what skills that you're building? Labor arbitrage is gone. It's no longer about labor arbitrage. We need to stop talking about labor arbitrage. We should talk about skills, capabilities that the business, the mothership, doesn't have. How do you build that capability? By leveraging your global hubs. And we need to and if we want to grow as global leaders, we need to stop talking about just India's story. We need to talk about a global story. The right talent at the right cost, at the right place, at the right time, to deliver the right capability back into the business. If we keep talking about India and our story of India, you're not going to grow as a leader. So therefore, whilst India could be a key location, for example, in TVS, 70% of our colleagues are based out of India, but we need to talk about as a agnostic horizontal organization. So let me talk about the recipe of our success. If you move on to the next slide, it's no longer about process. We need to stop talking about processes, about experience. How do you look at customer experience? It's not about contact center. It's not about property. It's not about commercial. It's about the whole thing. How do you stitch it up into a single journey for your customers? When they come into a store, it's the store design. It's the layout of your products. It's the decisions that you deliver through science. It's about the promotions that you give. It's about personalization through data science and analytics that you give, the personalized coupons that goes into your customers. Whether you shop online, how intuitive is your website? Are you giving enough recommendations? What is your substitution looking like? And then how do you use, secure, leverage, trap, and therefore use data to drive decisions? It's no longer about sitting, it's a highness crime as a GBS when you're sitting on so much data and you're unable to convert the data into decisions. And decisions is only worth written in a piece of paper if you execute those decisions. What you will find is a lot of decisions are taken and 70% of those decisions don't see a light of day. So how do you use your GBS model to ensure that you execute those decisions? It's no longer about point automation, robotics, and ERPs. It's about hyper automation. How do you leverage AI to drive hyper automation across our business? And we have almost 250 use cases in terms of how we're building our own AI engine to drive automation, but also help business take decision. Let me give you one of the examples that I can give you in terms of how we're leveraging AI. One of the problems that came to us about 18 to 24 months ago, if you remember, the world was going through during the war and post-COVID, the Russia and Ukraine war. UK was hit with a massive inflation. Inflation was hitting almost 16%. The retail index was at 16.8%. If you think about Tesco as a business, is about 2.8 billion, 2.67 billion margin business. So therefore, what was happening? All the suppliers, whether it's the CPGs or a lot of our 10,000 suppliers, were coming back to us and saying, we need to increase the price because we look at the increase our price to 13%, which meant that it was a net impact to our P&L of 1.8 billion. We could not pass all those costs to our customers. It couldn't happen because the customers won't shop with us. So how do you compete in a world? And my CEO is a great believer. My group CEO is a great believer that during difficult times, if we can support our customers, we will come out of this recession a lot better. So therefore, he came to us with a very, very ambiguous problem to say, all these suppliers are asking for pay increase, cost increase, cost price increase. So how do we know it's the right cost price increase? So what our data science and analytics team did was work very closely with our commercial colleagues, product colleagues, to really understand, for example, bread. I'll keep it nameless. A bread company came to us and said, we need to increase the bread price by 13%. So what we did was we found out the recipe for bread because we build our own product, so we know the recipe. So what we did was we built a product description in terms of what is bread made out of: flour, yeast, water, electricity, and then shipment cost. So we pulled together what we call the should cost. What should be a cost of the bread? And this is very much driven by our AI models that we built, and gave us a should cost for bread. And what we found was that 90%, in fact, 95% of the products were actually deflating, and about 5% products were inflating, which meant that if you add all that together, the bread price should really go down by 0.8% rather than a 13% increase. So we were able to go back and renegotiate with our supplier with a 0.5% decline in cost. And we did that across 20,000 products across Tesco Group, which meant that there was a triple digit million pound benefit instead of a 1.8 billion hit. So that's what we need to think about. How do you become disruptive rather than continue to manage your SLAs and KPIs? KPIs is given, that's your bread and butter. But how do you create tools and technology that disrupts your business and helps business to take some very difficult decisions during ambiguous times? If we move on to the next slide, I'll talk very quickly through our ingredient bond. It's about getting the fundamentals right. It's about not building a separate organization in India or anywhere else to that matter. It's about connecting to the purpose of the organization that you're working for. How do you build that into your DNA? Getting a seat on the table. And I always say, if you don't have a seat on the table, get yourself a deck chair. And once you have a deck chair, how do you become an influencer? Because we keep saying why global roles are not sitting out of India. It's because we don't have a seat on the table. And even if we have a seat on the table, we are not influencing the business decisions enough. I'll give you an example. Tesco Business Solutions is right at the heart of next 10 years strategy for Tesco Group. In fact, one of the directors in Tesco Business Solutions has now moved into group strategy to actually drive the next 10 years strategy. I talked about data being the new oil, and how do you leverage analytics, which is always on, and how do you deliver that science back into the business from everyday listening perspective? How do you build partnership? Partnership doesn't come from a subservient mentality. It comes from an equal footing. How do you build that partnership with your markets? How do you build those partnerships with your functions, with your CEO, and become this brain of the CEO and CFO? If you move on to the next slide, it's about building a culture. If technology is the bullet train, culture and process and experience is your two track that bullet train runs on. So therefore, building the right culture, a culture of a possibility mindset that anything is possible, is really key to build into your GBS model. If you move on to the next slide, it's about doing the brilliant basics right. It's about building a continuous improvement culture. It's about right first time, on time, every time, everywhere in the world. Nothing less should be acceptable. How do you build that into your DNA? Whilst this is not the most important thing, but this is your brilliant basics. This is your bread and butter to get the brilliant basics right. You have to get that right. That gives you the right, you earn the right to sit on the table and help business through those decisions. How do you build a continuous improvement culture? And it's not just Six Sigma or Lean, it's a mixture of all that. Mixture of change management, design thinking, Lean, Six Sigma, bring it together. Automation principle is very simple. Everything that comes into your organization should be automated and in electronic format and should remain digital throughout. Everything else should be managed by AI, except the exceptions. This is managed by humans, where you need decision, interpreting data, and the decisions that you need to take for the business, and making sure those decisions are implemented in the business. That's where humans should come in. If we move on to the next slide, ingredient 3, it's about how do you move from an efficiency to the obsession on value, which I talked about. It's improving. To me, value is 3 things: improving bottom line, improving cash, and improving revenue. If you don't talk about those 3 things, you're doing something wrong. So my target as a CEO of Tesco Business Solutions is not KPIs and SLAs. It's 4 things. 1, cash; 1, margin; revenue; and improving customer satisfaction, end customer satisfaction. I don't care what my stakeholders surveys, or I don't call my partners as customers. Customers is only one customer that pays their hard-earned wooden dollar in our stores or online to buy our products. They are my customers. How do I improve those customer satisfaction? That's very important to me. So let me talk about this. We spend all our life in solving and digitizing problems that are known to us. It's not known. To me, that delivers a benefit. When we focus on transformative thinking, it's dealing with known unknowns, unknowns that you're aware of, and how do you deal with it? But there are also unknowns that you never know, which is the ambiguous problem which I talked about of cost price increase. To me, that's applied research. How do you bring that applied research mentality into your organization? By really bringing in horizontal thinking, bringing in data and science and technology and AI together to solve perpetual unknown problems. And that unlocks untapped value opportunity in the business, which I talked about through our should cost model, through our product quality model. We developed something through our applied research, something called a cash monitoring engine. Cash is king in retail. And what this engine does, it looks at the whole end-to-end cash flow of our business. And we are able to generate free cash as we need it, when we need it, by looking at all the rules around how do we release cash in the business. And that's what we need to think about, is how do we move from digitization to applied research, which is about looking at unknowns that are perpetual, and how do we shed light, how do we solve these complex problems through your GBS model. If we move into the next slide, I'm going to very quickly talk about how do you bring data, AI, and people together. When you think about technology and people, which is your culture and disruption, to me, you can't take decisions, because technology and people without data, you can't take decisions. People and data without technology, it's impossible to make timely decisions. And if you think about technology and data, which is the new oil, and if you look at technology, without data is useless system, which is no use. So we need to think about how do you bring data science, technology, and people together to create that intelligent, that really helps business intelligence. That's the ultimate goal. It's not about running a process or people or data or technology in isolation. How do you bring that together and create that sweet spot for the business to create an intelligent business services? That's where you see the future is, and that's where we are at the moment. If we move on to the next slide. So let me finish off by saying it's about building brilliant basics, which is intelligent operations. Operations with the right governance, right control, right end-to-end KPIs. It's no longer about your KPI, it's about the end-to-end KPIs, which is right first time, on time, everywhere in the world. Using intuitive technology, which is made a lot smarter these days by artificial intelligence, generative AI, which is helping us to resolve a lot of queries, and creating value, which is revenue, margin, and working capital. Now, my final word, if we move on to the last slide. So what? And I want to give you a so what, that as Tesco Business Solutions goes up the value chain and creates more value, I will show you in 1 year what it does to the Tesco shareholder value. If you click onto the next slide, that's what's done to the Tesco share price. It went from £2.71 same time last year to £3.70 this year. And that's all very linked with the work we do in technology and in TBS to support the wider business. So that's all I had to say in terms of how do you bring together to create shareholder value, as I said, through intuitive operations, delivering value, and leveraging data. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that gives you a sense. And I'm happy to take any specific questions. If you can remove the slide,